let's talk about what happens next. So we've had this amazing experience of just visiting with our trophy room. What we're going to do next is, because this is just the introduction, and it's the sort of the second step in exploding that old bullshit con job that they call imposter syndrome. Because no imposter is going to have that impressive a collection, right? So now we're going to talk about about the homework you're going to do. This is where the brain rewiring really gets traction. So we're going to do this every day for the next 3 weeks. So we know from the research that the way neuroplasticity works, the brain begins changing immediately. You've already had this really visceral experience of, holy shit, there were some things I didn't notice before that now I can feel so different about them. And we know that the change takes full effect in anything from 72 hours to 3 weeks. With something that's been installed this long and gaslighted about this long, 3 weeks is going to be a sort of the ideal to aim for. And I would suggest that you can keep doing it longer if you want to. And you can, like do it maybe once a week, for example, because we're all constantly still getting these messages that say you don't belong here. Who do you think you are? So my suggestion is you do it at the end of your day, either with a nice beverage after dinner or maybe while you're sitting up in bed last thing. Because when you do this night after night after night, you can see your brain learns very quickly that you're going to be asking this same question every night. What are my 5 things? What are my 5 trophies? And for one of those trophies, what are my milestones? It knows you're going to be asking the same question. The difference here is that every night when we do it, we're just looking at the day that's gone. Feel free at any time to go back and repeat this for things in the past, because it's always a good, fun thing to do. But for the brain changing part of this exercise, we are just getting your brain to answer the question, what 5 things did I make real today? And this is nothing to do with your to-do list, by the way. In fact, I would absolutely not be looking at if you start the day with a to-do list of things to achieve today, please do not look at that when you're doing this exercise. Do not look at it. That's not the question we're asking. We're not saying to our brains, did I get my stuff done today? Because that is, no, we're not going there. We're saying to our brains, what 5 things did I do today that were an expression of me? Got out of bed, had a shower, got on a call, whatever it might be. There might be big things, there might be small things. Ideally aim for a mix, but it doesn't have to be. And as you do this night after night after night, your brain knows, it will pick up very quickly that you're going to be asking it the same question every night. So it will very quickly, because it likes to answer questions, it will very quickly spend day after day unconsciously, without you having to pay attention to it, collecting answers for you. So yes, we're going to do this night after night. Your brain knows that you're going to be asking it this question, so it will be storing up all of this evidence for the things that you did today. And that in its turn makes it much more difficult for the old imposter syndrome bullshit to keep its foothold or to make any new foothold. So it's a good inoculation. So as you do this exercise, you'll think back over the day and you'll find the 5 things you did, and that makes any doing word, any verb, not just the approved ones that we are told are worth a trophy. If 5 is too easy, make it 10. Like if you get to the 5 and you go, well, that was too easy, that like big deal, stretch yourself and make it 10. It's, you get to play with this how you like. Imagine a trophy for each one of those things. Imagine going back to your trophy room and imagine installing them on the shelf beside you and celebrating, high-fiving with Saturn. And then you're going to pick one of those items and you're going to do this exercise of drilling down to find the milestones that went into that trophy. And for each one of those, you're going to place an additional trophy on the shelf. Or if there turn out to be thousands of them, as in Philippa's example, where there was so many different milestones that it was a sparkle of stars that attach themselves to the trophy, that's fine too. Whatever it is that you uncover, you're designing your trophy shelf the way you want. Keep going until you can't think of another thing. And then stand back and admire all of these amazing new trophies that are now on your shelf. And then notice that the shelves are full, floor to ceiling. The shelf for today is completely and utterly full. You don't even know what half of those trophies are for, and it doesn't matter because you've just been able to focus on the ones that you wanted to play with today. So if you want to place more, keep going. If that feels like enough for tonight, give yourself one last high five, put a big grin on your face, and call it done. On a day when you feel completely crap by the end of the day, do it and be sure to pick things that are really low-hanging fruit. So don't make this into a task that is going to be too difficult for yourself. Be kind. Aim for low-hanging fruit. If you were teaching a toddler how to do this, you would be looking for the easiest possible thing that they could possibly think of that day. So made coffee, took a nap, had a shower. Each day aim for 5 new things if you can, but don't sweat it if for whatever reason you can't think of new things and you have to repeat things you've used before. Always pick one to dig into, and if you're enjoying the process, feel free to do it with more. So before we wrap up, I just want to give you a little reminder about what you're doing here. What you're doing here is you are literally and physically rewiring your own brain. That is fucking amazing. That is a superpower. There are 2 things our brains need in order to change. One is repetition. We're doing that by doing it daily. And the other is engagement. And we're doing that by this process of basking and taking delight and playing with our trophies. If you want to enhance the engagement, feel free to set up a Pinterest board and actually add trophies to it if that lights you up. I don't do that, but I know that sometimes can be a kind of nice adjunct. And I want you to remember this. Change is scary for our brains. Our brains don't like change. We've had 200,000 years of cave person evolution that tells us when something is different, it could be lethal. So it's not surprising that our brains are wary of change. And sometimes, even when it is change that we want and that it is good for us and is healthy and is nice, our brains will still be wary and they will come up with tricky ways to stop us doing it. So they will do things like they will have us forgetting to do our practice, or they will have us thinking it'll never work, or it's too easy, or it's too simple, or it's too hard, whatever it might be. Your brain is not your enemy, but part of it got programmed by those who would keep you small. And if you let your brain convince you that this change is too scary or too difficult or the work is not worth doing, it's kind of like you are doing the work of the oppressors for them. Please don't do that. Fuck that shit. So make it easy for yourself. I use a notebook. I know today we used a large sheet of paper. I would suggest you have a journal or a notebook or something like that if you prefer doing it that way. But put your little glyph of Saturn in the corner of the page. I have my trophy room notebook and a pen sort of living by my bed. And when I make my bed in the morning, I put them on the pillows. So I have to pick them up. I have to literally physically pick them up in order to go to bed, which is going to get me halfway towards doing it. Thank you so much for letting me support you with this. I am so enthusiastic about this work, about the blending of neuroplasticity and magical allies, and being able to apply it to something like imposter syndrome, which feels so much like it's an uncontrollable part of ourselves when we now know that it isn't. It's just an absolute delight. So I want to talk about what happens next. So we've done the meditation, you've got your homework. You're also going to be getting an email in your inbox every day over the next 3 weeks. These are designed to support you. So this is not about pressuring you or nagging you. You might get the occasional little nudge to say, have you done your homework? But mainly it's to do with things like exploring additional dimensions, such as what are some other ways of looking at Saturn? How else can we have a relationship with that planet? It might be experiences other people have had, frequently asked questions that other people have asked in the past who've gone through this process. Because until we do this process and we start changing the brain, sometimes we don't really know what it's going to be like. And it is different for each individual. The overarching journey is the same, but the experience along the way might be different. So you'll get some emails in your inbox to support you with that journey. There are also a couple of Facebook groups I want to let you know about. One is my more public-facing group, which is more of an umbrella group where I talk about neuroplasticity, and it's called Your Everyday Superpower. So it talks about the power of neuroplasticity and different ways of using it, different ways we can hack this in the brain's own systems and functions to actually implement change and development and growth and healing and all the other things that we might want to do. The other group is more private, and it is more focused and dedicated to just talking about imposter syndrome. So that's where you will find things like some of the daily emails will get replicated there, which gives you an opportunity to ask questions. It's also a place where if you want to ask a more private question about your journey through this work, then that's absolutely the place to do it. If you'd like to be in one or both of those groups, then either, if we're already connected on Facebook, just send me a direct message and ask to be added, and that's fine. If we're not yet connected on Facebook, then drop me an email and give me the URL, the internet address of your Facebook profile, so that I can find you and let me know what group you want to be added to, and then I can add you to the group. The other thing I want to say is that this work is part of a growing library of resources, all of which have this same common theme of how can I create healing and growth and expansion for myself, given that we've all grown up in these really fucked systems, and that has left some unhelpful programming in our brains, and now I want to change that programming. So over time, I'm going to be releasing a lot of different resources that have this common theme of using the neuroplasticity and the planetary allies as a way to unleash our own power with a lot less effort. And the first one of those is already available. And I'll put some links to this in some of the PS on some of the emails. I think this is a really good partner piece to the imposter syndrome work, and this is to do with boundaries. Now, there is a lot of really good stuff out there on the internet about how to set and maintain boundaries. What's useful in this particular piece that I'm adding to that mix, adding to all of that noise, is that this involves a couple of planetary allies, and it also involves a particular internal ally that we all have, and most of us have not yet had a healthy relationship with. So I will make sure you've got links to that. It's called Get Your Mars On. It's $30 US. So it's an absolute no-brainer. And it's one of the most potent tools that I teach my clients. So if that's of interest to you, I'll give you the link so you can go and find it for yourself. But for now, thank you so much for letting me give you this absolute fire hose of information and walking you through that meditation. I wish you so much joy and fun for the daily practice. You will be getting one of the emails that comes out in a few days' time will give you a short meditation you can use to support that practice. But for now, I just want you to do it on your own for a couple of nights and sort of really feel free to walk through the meditation on this recording if you want to. That's totally fine as well. But the real focus I want you to be starting to look at is that asking your brain that question: what 5 things can I recognize I brought as an expression of myself into the world in some physical form by something I did? And the joy of that exercise of celebrating that, I think, is second to none. So I wish you joy of it, and I am celebrating every single shining, glorious part of you, and I'm sending you lots of love. Mwah.